2015 Georgia Bulldogs making their way into Sanford Stadium for G-Day. Mark Richt in his 15th season, giving the home folks something to see, especially with new offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer calling the shots. But most eyes will be focused on the quarterback. Bryce Ramsey among three candidates, along with Jacob Hart and Fatone Bauta. They will all get a chance to display their arms. But 2-7, Nick Chubb is in the house. We'll see him coming up next. We welcome you to the Georgia Spring Game, presented by Regions Bank from Sanford Stadium here in Athens, Georgia. The 2015 edition of the Bulldogs on display. Around 30,000 Georgia loyalists inside Sanford Stadium, between the hedges. Everybody trying to get a vantage point to see what next year's football team will look like. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody. An absolutely gorgeous day here in Athens. Dave Neal alongside former Georgia All-American lineman Matt Stinchcomb. Glad you could be with us. And Matt, last year this was a 10-win football team. They did lose 3 games along the way. So obviously a good year, not a great year. They're trying to make that next step. And for that to happen, obviously, a quarterback has to emerge. That is one of many storylines we'll be looking at today.
Yeah, in an area, really, where there hasn't been a lot of question marks for Mark Richt at that position for the longest of times. Really, he looked all the way back to the year 2001 when it was David Green and Corey Phillips. Who was going to be the starter? Now, it looks like it's a 2-horse race with Bryce Ramsey and Fatone Bauta. And they've looked at their performances, and they've been virtually mirror images of one another in the scrimmages. This is the 3rd and final scrimmage of this spring set, and it really might come down to which one of these guys can implement a new offensive system that came with Brian Schottenheimer when he came from his pro ranks. It's a little bit of a wordy system. They might have to pare it down a little bit, but ultimately they're going to want to be able to run the football, and we know who's going to be the centerpiece of that, Nick Chubb. That's going to be a very, very friendly aspect of this offense, knowing that they have question marks at the signal caller position when you've got a Heisman candidate to hand the football off to. And on the other sideline, today, the defense, can they build on a couple of highlight performances and avoid some of the low points that they ran into? Obviously, South Carolina, Florida, rushing performances versus Georgia Tech that were less than stellar, to say the least. Can they build on their high points, like the Auburn performance, and keep that momentum going into the 2015 season?
Now, obviously, from a player's perspective, you're out here in front of crowds. For many of these guys, the first time they've had a chance to play in front of this. But what is it like from a player's perspective, a G-Day game?
Yeah, these guys, they're not going to be boiling a mouthpiece for this thing, not extra special for this ball game. And at the same time, you want to maintain your position or improve your position going into summer camp to make sure that you can fight for a starting spot.
Well, if you're curious about what the coach, Mark Richt, will be looking at today, let's find out. He's alongside Maria Taylor.
Thanks so much, Dave. Coach, a unique situation for you. You enter the spring game not knowing who your starting quarterback is. What do these guys have to show you in order to hope to separate themselves from the pack?
Well, like always, make good decisions, hit your target. Be a leader, handle adversity. Those are the things we're looking for. But I doubt very much at the end of this game we'll have anything definitive. But I will say they've been working their tails off. Really proud of their effort at this point.
Been a part of many spring games here at Georgia. What do you ultimately like to take away from this game?
Number one, no injuries. But just to see how they respond. This is as close to a real game as we could get for them. And just see how they handle it. Just see if they faint or if they rise to the occasion. So that's one of the big things I'll be looking for.
All right, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, Maria, thank you very much. A gorgeous day, 77 degrees, sunny, not much wind. Here are our spring game rules, 12-minute quarters as opposed to the regular 15. We'll also spot all punts 35 yards from the previous line of scrimmage, and no kickoffs. The ball will be spotted at the 25-yard line after every score, and of course at the start of each half. Well, the guy that certainly played the most a year ago, one Bryce Ramsey, the sophomore out of Kingsland, Georgia. He will open up the game as the quarterback, 6'3", 216, 333 yards, played in 8 games a year ago.
Well, not only my thoughts, but Brian Schottenheimer's thoughts. He probably has the most arm talent. He's a guy that can make all the throws. The question will be, can he operate the offense? You heard Coach Richt talk about decision-making is something they hold in very high esteem. They protect the football well last year. They want to make sure that they're getting good decision-making out of that quarterback position as much as they are getting arm talent.
So Brian Schottenheimer will be the head coach of the red team. Jeremy Pruitt will be the head coach of the team in the white jerseys. First play of the game going down the far sideline, incomplete. Looking for one, Malcolm Mitchell, the senior out of Valdosta, Georgia. The only player returning among the wide receivers with double-figure catches a year ago. He had 31 for 248.
You know, we tried to blow right past him in the coaches meeting yesterday, and Shotty made it a point. Wait a minute, let's talk about Malcolm Mitchell a little bit. And clearly, you can see they like his ability to take the top off of the defense and stretch early. They see a football go over their heads for Jeremy Pruitt's squad on the first play of the game.
Quick hitter over the middle. That one is caught by Isaiah McKenzie. He'll take it 19 yards. Quincy Mauger, the free safety, tracks him down. But a flag is down.
And we'll talk about passes and completions and that sort of thing, but this is one of the things that Coach Rick didn't want, is procedural type issues.
Offense. Five in the backfield. Now.
There you go, Hubert Owens, longtime SEC referee, the referee this afternoon. So that'll back up the red team to the 20-yard line after that 19-yard pitch and catch to McKenzie, who Mark Richt couldn't say enough about that young man.
He's a big fan. You can see why. He's a threat in their offensive deployment, especially out of the slot with his quickness.
High snap on 2nd and 15. Ramsey will chase it down, and Hubert Owens looking at Mark Richt saying, do you want it to be spotted at the 2-yard line? And that's where they will spot it. Isaiah Wynn, a guard that has moved over to center, snapping the ball to Ramsey.
And we've talked about the quarterback position, but they're also missing David Andrews and his 40 career starts. A stalwart, and you can see that one. Isaiah Wynn was working away from his snap hand, and he's working to get in front of a defender in pass protection. That ball just sailed right over Bryce Ramsey's head. Back-to-back plays, the type that you don't want to see in this game so far.
3rd and 33. They will hand it off to Nick Chubb. He'll pick up 6 yards on his first carry of the G-Day game. Tim Kimbrough, a linebacker. That's a spot, certainly, that that inside linebacker spot is something Jeremy Pruitt and Coach Mark Richt really focusing on here this spring and obviously into the fall.
You lose your 2 leading tacklers in the inside of this 3-4 defensive set. Marlo Herrera and Ramik Wilson. Ramik Wilson typically at the top of the conference in tackles, but they've liked what they've seen. It's probably going to be a platoon type of arrangement at that inside linebacking spot.
The punt out to the 36-yard line. Dominic Sanders will catch it. There'll be no returns on the punts today or the kicks. So they split up the teams in red and black, but obviously they're wearing the red and white jersey, so it's
just trying to keep us on our toes
Yeah,
up here, dude. That black team only has 1 player on the field. It's going to be tough.
So here is Fatone Bauta, 6'3", 218 out of West Palm Beach, Florida, 6 career games. And he's a young man. I think a lot of people around here, because of Ramsey playing most of the snaps last year, felt it was his job, but Bauta's had a really good spring.
Yeah, and you can tell he's got a ton of respect amongst not only the coaches, but the balance of this roster. A guy that really has put in the time, a very studious guy. They like his preparation.
A.J. Turman gets that handoff, a sophomore out of Orlando, Florida, with a gain of 3 on the play. A.J., somebody that Coach Schottenheimer was talking about in our meetings. It's had a really good spring camp as well.
Yeah, you know, they're a little bit short-handed. Running back position, Sony Michel working on a shoulder injury. So we'll see a good bit, I think, of Turman as well as Brendan Douglas in this ball game. Only seen 1 carry by Nick Chubb, but rest assured it's going to be a key component of what Georgia wants to do offensively.
They will hand it off again to Turman, who takes it to the 35, about 1.5 yards, maybe 2 shy of that first down inside the 35-yard line.
Nice push that time on the run, and we've mentioned inside linebackers. Really, it's the interior portion of the defense that a little bit of a question mark. You know, defensive tackle, they're transitioning there. No Toby Johnson. no Mike Thornton. They're needing guys to step up to be able to anchor the interior portion in front of two new faces at inside linebacker.
I'll just hand it off again to Turbin, trying to get that first down. It'll be close. Gain of a yard. And a young man that has enrolled early, Jonathan Ledbetter, out of Tucker, Georgia, Tucker High School, the football power in Atlanta, making that play. 6'4", 265.
He was singled out in our meetings yesterday. Jeremy Pruitt, the defensive coordinator, really likes Jonathan Ledbetter and what he can bring to that defensive front. The challenge is he's not bringing enough. He's lost about 40 pounds. Got a sickness. And they're needing him to beef up. That's one of the changes that they made in the offseason as well as in their strength and conditioning program. They need to tie a pork chop around his neck and get him some weight for the SEC season.
On 4th and inches, they'll throw it. Bauta dumps it off in a big collision at the 20-yard line. It'll be Jordan Davis, a sophomore out of Thompson, Georgia, picks up 18.
See a lot of this, I think, especially with Bauta in there, moving the pocket. Nice play action and a good fake. That time able to get open and hit a target on the run. Bauta is an athlete, a big body at that quarterback position. Something that he's going to need to be adept at is running and throwing on the move.
Bauta throws to the pylon. Is it caught? They will say yes, down to the 1. Nice catch from Kenneth Towns, a junior. Trammell Terry on the coverage, a gain of 16.
And Terry, back-to-back plays on the previous. Nice stick on the tackle. That time, though, the back shoulder throw, great placement for Bauta. Probably wants it a little bit more upfield and away from the defender. More towards that pylon, but regardless, Kenneth Towns doing a great job battling for his quarterback to get that reception.
So 1st and goal, ball sits right about the 1-yard line. Here goes Turbin off the left side. Does he get in? They will say yes, he does. So a good opening drive from the guys in the white jerseys. They put the first points on the board.
Nice field position. You get a penalty, you get a bad snap, backs up the opposing team, quote unquote. Next thing you know, the offense is working on half of a football field. Ideal to be able to put together a scoring drive.
Elis will attempt the point after. And it splits the uprights. So A.J. Turbin, the redshirt sophomore out of Boone High School in Orlando, puts his club on the board. Even though they're wearing white jerseys, the black team, as they have divvied them up, lead 7-0. While we have a second, let's get an update. Go down the sidelines, join Maria. So the first carry of the second drive goes to Brendan Douglas, the junior out of Augusta. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. We'll try to get down to Maria once we get that corrected. It's our spring game too, you know.
That's right. That's exactly right. We're all on the same team here.
2nd down and 5. Boy, Douglas, he has been a nice security blanket for Mark Richt the past couple of seasons. Nowhere to run that time for Douglas. Jordan Jenkins unblocked, the senior, hoping to have a big final campaign.
Well, a lot of people have been talking about Georgia maybe having the strongest outside linebacker position. That time, Jordan Jenkins completely unaccounted for on the backside of the blocking scheme. And boy, did he close quickly from the backside. Jordan Jenkins is a guy that, you know, had some big performances, to say the least, last year. Big game versus Auburn. And he needs to be a linchpin for that defensive front, knowing that they're breaking in some new players at the tackle spots.
This time they block him. Ramsey wide open, McKenzie at the 40. He's to the 20. Trying to get to the end zone, and he does. 73 yards. He got past Reggie Wilkerson, and the rest was goal lines and headlines.
He gets up a little bit injured. You see, I don't know if he's cramping or not. You know, Coach Richt, coming into this game, he said he wanted a clean football game. And he wanted to get out without injuries. The very first offensive possession, some hiccups, a penalty, a bad snap. And now it looks like grabbing his hamstring is Isaiah McKenzie. And this Georgia roster has been plagued with hamstring injuries. The fans applauding the effort. You can see McKenzie very much in pain. And it's obvious what it is that the coaching staff likes in him, because he certainly is a playmaker. Once he gets in space, he was working against Reggie Wilkerson, a guy who's going to get a lot of time, it looks like, in the slot, nickel packages. And that time, McKenzie, plenty enough separation. Nice ball placement, hits him in stride. No one was able to run him down, but clearly came up a little bit lame at the back end. And it looks like probably on the 2-yard line, Dave, where he came up a little bit gimpy on that right hammy, grabbed it right away. Doubt we see him at all the rest of the game. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, knowing that they've got big plans for him and their offense going forward.
Well, Ramsey liked the end result. Ron Corson talking to McKenzie, who last year really kind of busted onto the scene as a freshman out of Miami, Florida. A.J. Turman will get the carry, no gain.
Great job that time by Natrez Patrick, a guy that Pruitt singled out yesterday as well. Another newcomer, true freshman, early entrant. He likened him to a player he had at Alabama, Dante Hightower. And boy, I got a little saucer-eyed, because that's one of the more talented linebackers that we've seen in this conference. He said they just need to figure out a way to get Patrick to play every snap the way he did on that last one.
Little play action determined. Bauta steps up in the pocket, throws a bullet out to the 43-yard line. Justin Scott Wesley with a 20-yard catch and a first down.
That time Bauta able to step up in the pocket, but I think it's because James DeLoach from his tackle position was able to get a quick beat, quick win in the pass rush. Obviously these quarterbacks aren't live. It affords them a little bit of a false reality sometimes, and you can see McKenzie there. It does not look very encouraging. Certainly plenty of time to get ready for summer camp. He's done for the spring.
Dump it off over the middle to Turman. Tripped up by Natrez Patrick, another true freshman that enrolled early.
You know, that's one of those plays, Dave, it was interesting. We talk about the quarterback spot. Brian Schottenheimer mentioned, you know, what the running back talent that Georgia has, it's not a bad thing to check down to your quarterback, to your running back rather, over the football. You don't have to force the football downfield as much as they want that downfield passing game to be an element.
Boy, Turman hit the moment he got the handoff by Chukwuemeka, another new name to the Georgia program, the junior college transfer out of Arizona Western College. Georgia has a handful of guys that decided to get on campus a little bit early, and certainly it is a huge benefit for these young men to go through this spring.
You see that list, you know, not all these guys are JUCO transfers. You know, one highlighted there, Jake Gaines, former linebacker at UAB, no longer have football there. He was able to transfer wherever and play immediately, and he chose Georgia and is likely to get some solid playing time at the inside linebacker spot.
Bauta, they'll give a sack to Chukwuemeka. Chooks, 7 sacks, 18.5 tackles behind the line. Last year at Arizona Western. Started his career at North Dakota State with a Bison. Redshirted there and moved on.
Tell you what, North Dakota State, that's a powerhouse. Great job for years and years under Craig Bowl. You see Chukwuemeke's a guy that they've cross-trained a little bit. They've lined him up at the inside linebacker position this spring. They've also moved him outside, and they've liked what he's brought. They've given him some juice at a position where they're already pretty stacked. But knowing that they can roll some players in multiple positions. Chukwuemeka's a guy that gives them some flexibility defensively.
Well, you mentioned Jake Gaines. For more on his story, let's go down to Maria.
Yeah, guys, Jake Gaines, just 3 days after becoming bowl eligible at UAB, he found out that the football program was being canceled, and he got a call from Georgia, and he went on one official visit and decided that this was where he wanted to spend his final year because he thought that it could be the best year. Now, he says that even when he's in a Georgia uniform, he's still representing UAB and the legacy that was because he was a part of the last team to actually play for the Blazers. But Georgia's happy to have him, and it's working out pretty well for him in his senior year.
Thanks, Maria. Here is Ramsey. They'll blow the whistle on that. But Jake Gaines, unfortunate the UAB program went away. Had a chance to watch him play last year in a game, and he was all over the football field. He's actually led the team in tackles twice, back-to-back seasons at UAB.
You hear about his instincts. You know, the coaches, they're not going to rave about his measurables. And at the same time, they say he's around the football. He's just got a good head for the game. Jeremy Pruitt mentioned that if they can keep him healthy and he can hold up to the grind of an SEC schedule, they really like what they've seen from Jake Gaines. He is definitely going to play a role at that inside linebacking position if he continues on the trend that he's already set here in the spring.
There's Douglas. Nowhere to run. No gain on the play. Reggie Carter steps up in that middle backer spot. There's your defensive coordinator, Jeremy Pruitt. Second year, saw a dramatic improvement with his defense, and it really started with turnovers. He gives a lot of credit in terms of turnover margin, where Georgia was plus 16 best in the league. He gives some of the credit to the offense for not coughing it up, but still, you get 13 fumbles, 16 picks, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you're hawking that football. And he even mentioned, you know, even in the spring, he said, I've seen 12 balls that should have been picked. We were in position to hit us in the hands. We got to come up with that ability to flip the possession right there, but he likes the fact that he's getting defenders in positions. They are hawking that football and putting themselves in a place where they can get a turnover.
Well, they have a chance here as the red team will have to throw it on third down, and it will be once again in the hands and out of the hands, just what he has seen all spring long, but good coverage from Aaron Davis, the sophomore who got plenty of action a year ago.
You know, Aaron Davis working against Reggie Davis, a very thin wide receiving core. We've mentioned some of the departures, but this ball, you know, Ramsey just throwing up a prayer and hoping that he had enough juice on that football. It hung, and Aaron Davis able to play center field. It looked to me like there Reggie was able to get a hand in there, avoid the interception. But those are the types of decisions I think that Coach Richt and Brian Schottenheimer are going to be scrutinizing quite a bit. They're not looking for that sort of thing. Last year they got 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions out of Hudson Mason. They had a pretty solid year offensively, led the conference in scoring. You don't necessarily have to take a chance like that.
Well, we saw Isaiah McKenzie with a 73-yard touchdown, but pull up with a bad hamstring, it appears. Let's get an update and go down to Maria.
Yeah, you saw him getting helped off the field. He went into the locker room. Isaiah McKenzie has not returned, and I'm told that it's a right hamstring, and he will not be coming back into the game. I'll let you know if he comes out of the locker room, though, guys.
All right, thanks, Maria. Surrounded by some Bulldogs with you and Maria down there. A couple of legends here in Athens. Hard to walk around the campus with you two. A.J. Thurman getting to work. Gain of a couple. I'm waiting for that Stinchcomb, that intersection where it says Stinchcomb Taylor.
They haven't come up with that. They got Maria's picked out already. Mine's like a gravel access road.
I think I was on that on the way up. We'll get you some cement or something to put on that, some asphalt.
Yeah, Maria played 2 sports down there, 2-sport athlete, volleyball and basketball. Not many people let her in both these days.
Well, Fatone Bauta off to a good start. And he is popped and kept from hitting the ground. That sack will go to Chris Mays, the senior out of Griffin, Georgia. A loss of 5, and boy, that's something that this Georgia team needs some D-line help.
They do, and know what? I'm liking what I'm seeing out of James DeLoach. Now, James DeLoach had a great spring game a year ago, and Jeremy Pruitt even brought that up. Said, look, we're all fired up about DeLoach coming into the season, but then we never saw the productivity in the summer camp. We didn't see it heading into the year. We want to see him do what he does in the spring throughout the balance. Chris Mays is going to be a big anchor in the middle. James DeLoach, a couple of times now, we've seen him be very disruptive in the offensive backfield.
Bauta goes underneath. Matt Price, a freshman, redshirt freshman out of Snellville, Georgia. with the reception. Gain of 12.
That time, Bauta did a good job stepping up. Again, Chukwuemeka with some good pressure coming off the left edge of the offensive front. Bauta feeling it. Didn't flush, didn't tuck, didn't run. Just stepped up in the pocket, kept his eyes down on the field. You can see the left side collapsing. He's able to deliver the football across his body in a place where it's an easy reception and able to pick up some positive yardage.
Hubert Owens with the call on the flag. Personal foul at the end of the play will march the football down to the 25.
A little extra effort there at the end. I mean, like Jarvis Wilson ended up slinging down Matt Price. Not often you see personal fouls in an inter-squad game. These guys are excited. As Coach mentioned, this is as close as they're going to get to a game environment in a long time. You practice against each other for a while, you get a little bit frustrated.
Well, good quarter for that guy. Fatone Bauta hasn't missed yet. He's 5 out of 5, 71 yards. But we are tied after the 73-yard touchdown strike from Ramsey to McKenzie. Quarter number 1 in the books. Here on the Georgia campus, it'll be ringing no matter what happens today as we're back at the Georgia Spring Game presented by Regions Bank. It is 7-7 after 1 quarter of football, and as you and I were just talking about, looking around Sanford Stadium here, this is another nice crowd. They were telling me they've had in the neighborhood of around 35 to 40,000 the past couple of years at these games, and I think they're probably going to be close to that number again today. I've been over to Alabama the last few years, and you know what that scene is like.
Yeah, that's standing room only over there. But I tell you what, this stadium is really filled out even since the game has begun. A lot of fans on hand to see this quarterback battle.
Bauta gets away with it just in time. It goes to Davis, who will score from 26 yards away. Once again, quarterbacks can't be taken to the ground today, and you wonder if that had an impact on Bauta getting the pass off. Regardless, he hasn't misfired yet.
No, he's done well, and we've mentioned how he's managed some of the pressure looks. That time, though, Jake Gaines had a free run at him. Confident that that ends up as a sack or a throwaway in real life. But here in the false reality of spring football, it was a completion for a touchdown. Regardless, as you pointed out, he hasn't had one hit the ground yet.
Belis attempts the point after. So Fatone Bauta 6 of 6, 106 yards, a TD, and no picks today, obviously.
Pretty athletic to get rid of that football. It was falling away, and we've seen Jordan Davis now with a couple of nice catches from Bauta. The tight end position is certainly one of strength and depth for Georgia coming into this season. One of the nuances that the players have mentioned is it seems as if it's a more tight end friendly approach from Brian Schottenheimer. That may be a function of his personnel that he has to work with.
And talking to Coach Richt yesterday about this team, he would love to see maybe 3 tight ends in the game, and you can split them out and cause all kinds of mismatches.
Lots of flexibility. They've got athleticism at that tight end position.
Handoff to Douglas as the red team trying to answer back. He'll pick up 3 yards. There is Jordan Davis. He, along with Jeb Blazevich, Jackson Harris, a true freshman enrolled early, a 4-star guy, considered the number 5 tight end in the country last year, also on the mix. And you got the senior leader, Jay Rome, who's still hanging around.
A lot of guys, and as you mentioned, guys that you can line up attached to the line of scrimmage. You can flex them back into the backfield, split them out wide. You get a defense caught in regular personnel, that's a mismatch.
Quick throw to the near side. Malcolm Mitchell makes the catch. He picks up 8. Malcolm slow to get onto the field last year after tearing his ACL in the opener against Clemson. Had a setback right before the season last year, and it wasn't until week 4 or 5 that he got back on the field. And he's a big play guy, but he didn't have a lot of his average per catch was right around 8 yards. That should be around the 14, 15 this season.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the things that Coach Richt mentioned. What is he looking for in the quarterback position? Decision making. You got to be able to handle pressure. And can you throw the football accurately downfield? Part of that function is knowing the weapon that they have in number 26, Malcolm Mitchell, and stretching a defense. They can't just be him, of course. They're going to need some complementary players. I mentioned Justin Scott Wesley, a guy who has been slowed by a knee injury and still isn't really 100%. They're going to need some guys to step up at that wide receiver spot.
Of course, they hope some of the guys that aren't here on campus just yet can fill that void. And, you know, they talk, you know, and that's a position you need 7, 8 guys that can just kind of run through there. They don't have to be the man, but you got to be able to compete.
You got to be a man. You got to be a guy to get out there and give us some reps. Is what these coaches are looking for. You got to be able to. We got to be able to trust you to know what you're doing. As you see a misfire there to Jeb Blazevich, you know, a guy that really emerged last year as a key weapon. But Terry Godwin, Jason Stanley, guys that in this recruiting class, these coaches are very eager to get them on campus. They've been very thin at that spot. Even Coach Richt mentioned he felt almost sorry for the wide receivers with the number of reps that they were going to get.
There's Coach Richt with the radio boys. Scott Howard to his right. Voice of the Bulldogs. And a flag in the middle of that line of scrimmage. I could see why, watching Bauta for the first time extensively today in an extended period of time, you can see why he has certainly become a viable candidate for this job.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen him, you know, manage what they're doing in the passing game well, and by that I mean manage what pressure they're getting. Throughout spring, that's been kind of a common theme. The defense has done a good job collapsing the pocket. You see how that athleticism comes in handy. And now, of course, he's getting some reps with the number 1s.
There is Nick Chubb. We were told Chubb would probably work the first series, maybe 2, but then basically just be a third down guy here in the opening half to try to work on that part of his game. And Ryan Schottenheimer said it's a dimension that has really gone well for him.
Yeah, he's a guy that, you know, gives him a weapon in the passing game out of the backfield, but can stay in the game in pass protection. And really that running back position is one that they're expecting to be more than a ball carrier. Nick Chubb can be a threat that Georgia's been able to have at that running back position, especially with a talent like a Todd Gurley, a guy that you can hit not only in the sprint and the screen type game, but even those checkdowns and be a weapon.
Boy, Nick Chubb was something else in that Belk Bowl. 266 yards rushing against Louisville, just tore them up. 2 touchdowns. Belk Bowl record, also an SEC Bowl record, as Georgia just throttled Louisville 37-14. There were some fine performances last year, but that was crazy.
Hey, I mean, you're talking about a true freshman, a guy coming in who had to have thought he was going to get limited touches. Obviously, Sony Michel, a guy you're going to have to split reps, but a guy in front of you, and Todd Gurley, who could have won the Heisman. Probably would have won the Heisman if he had a full body of work. And yet, when he was called upon, he really answered the bell in a big way. And that offense was able to stay up on plane. As we mentioned, it was very run-centric, and it was because of the talents of number 27 and others, of course, but a key component was Nick Chubb last year in the run game.
1,547 yards, 14 touchdowns, averaged over 7 yards a carry, 119 yards a game, second in the conference in rushing, 8 100-yard games.
That's in 2/3 of a season. I mean, you're talking about a guy that, you know, is obviously got a lot of touches, but early on, you know, he's not a guy that's lining up in the backfield that you're thinking our number 1 run is going to 27.
Well, you know, Gurley, 123 carries, 911 yards.
It's hard to think, well, let's get the ball to somebody else. And yet when they had to, Chubb proved to be a pretty strong alternate, now no longer alternate to anybody. He's going to be the centerpiece of what they're doing on the ground.
And they'll say a sack there as Ramsey can't get out of traffic. And there's Natrez Patrick again, the youngster wearing number 6 out of Atlanta, out of Mays High School. USA Today, second-team All-American, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Defensive Player of the Year, had 111 tackles as a senior, 27 of those behind the line. Has a sack today and 3 tackles. So 7:56 to go here in the second quarter, with the black team actually wearing the white jerseys leading the red 14-7. We'll step aside, back in a moment.
That's a guy of a different breed right there. That is a man with speed.
Punishing people as he goes. But Gurley's on the loose. Wow. Gurley broke a tackle. Gurley heading to the end zone. The great equalizer, Todd Gurley.
Boy, was he something else. And one thing that's been overlooked with Todd Gurley is the fact that he had the longest pass play completion of the season last year.
That's right, yeah.
We forgot about that.
50-yarder, wasn't it,
Yeah.
versus Vandy? Kind of speaks to the downfield passing game when your tailback's completing them bombs.
Isaiah Wynn may have popped up. That'll back up the red team to the 40-yard line. There's Todd, and he has been in training.
Looks like
and
it.
interviewing and getting ready for the draft. We'll have more on that coming up at halftime. Kind of a look at what he's been doing the past few months. And obviously, when you got guns like that, you got to show them off, right?
That's right. It's a gun show, man. The sun's out, the gun's out.
Gain of 5.
And watching him run, it's interesting because we've talked about Nick Chubb, and they are distinctly different runners to me when you watch him. Chubb, you know, he's more abrupt when he changes direction. Gurley, when he ran the football, it was like he was a downhill skier. You know, he was cutting, he would make cuts, but it was always as if the field was leaning away from him. Like he always had a downhill run at whoever it was in front of him.
Bauta gets the pass off. It'll be incomplete. Pressure came from Lorenzo Carter, and the first time we've called his name today, wearing number 7 in white. And there is a guy that the upside for Lorenzo Carter is crazy high.
Oh, absolutely. He's incredibly talented. If you're wondering what the cheers are for, they just put Todd Gurley's face up on the big screen. But so this is a scenario that you want to stay out of if you're an offense facing this Georgia defense. 3rd and long, obvious passing down. Lorenzo Carter at the bottom of your screen at the end of the line, and Jordan Jenkins at the top.
Bauta. And there's number 7 right on cue. He'll get credit for the sack, a loss of 5.
And it was they had him high-low. You know, Jordan Jenkins was able to shorten the edge versus John Theus. Number 71 gets beat with his hands. And Bauta, you know, those quarterbacks, they feel it, that edge pressure, and he steps up right into the rush of Lorenzo Carter. He can make it challenging for these offensive tackles. Having been one, you get a guy that's flushing your quarterback up, it's hard to get a feel for where he is in the pocket.
Forces a punt. No returns on punts today. So the black team wearing the white jerseys will have the football. We were Jacob Park now with the, there is Leonard Floyd, 84. We're talking about Carter and the Jordan Jenkins and that trio could be about as good as they get. And we just found out today that he played, that man right there, played injured most of last year.
You know, it's interesting because after that Florida game, you know, we did a little breakdown on the SEC Now show after the Florida spot where you could see the edges being exploited by a Florida run game that ran it 60 times to the tune of 418 yards, and wondering what's going on with these outside linebackers. And part of it was Leonard Floyd had 2 trash shoulders. I mean, the guy just couldn't get great extension. Played limitedly the following week versus Kentucky. Certainly was able to put together a pretty stellar performance versus Auburn. And they like what they see in him.
Well, here's Jacob Park, kind of the 3rd man in this quarterback rotation. I mean, he looks the part. 6'4", a little over 200 pounds, out of Goose Creek, South Carolina. Big arm. One of the things that Coach Schottenheimer was talking about was just needs to be a little bit quicker with his decision-making process. Handoff goes to Turman. South Carolina's Mr. Football and ESPN Elite 11 performer, threw for 3,600 yards, 33 touchdowns as a high school senior, redshirted last year in this program. You watch him warm up, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, the kid's got some. He's got some jock in him. I mean, you can see that he's out there. He looked good as a receiver almost when they were just pat and go. Caught a couple of bad balls coming back from his receivers. We thought the kid's got great hands. He probably could have fielded that bad snap earlier. But the question is, can he get through his progression fast enough? And clearly that's been an issue so far from what they've seen.
Nice pass to Glenn Welch. 46 will pick up the first down by a couple of yards. Let's see, they spot it actually back at the 35. So let's see if that's good enough for the first down. And they will say 4th and inches.
That's a pressure-packed decision now. You go for it in a spring game. Great chance to get a short yardage down in, so why not?
This is one of those plays that will be discussed for hours.
That's right. What was he thinking going for it right there? I'll tell you what, nice hole. He winds it back, the backside. A.J. Turman did a good job, good vision to find a hole behind the left guard. Good patience that time. Pressed the whole play side, saw a nice cutback. Good ball security as he entered the line, able to get the first down, and an excellent decision to go for it.
So first down and 10. Play fake. Park to throw on the run. Pass is complete. That goes to Jordan Davis, the tight end, who gets hit from behind, but not before he picks up 14 yards and held on to the football.
Jordan Davis, you mentioned Jackson Harris earlier. Guys that can provide some depth at the very least at that tight end position. And as you mentioned, Dave, earlier, when you got a talent like they have, and even a Quavon Hicks, a guy that can, he's probably a true fullback, but got time at tight end last year, an H-back type of a guy. You can do a lot of things with those moving chess pieces.
To the wide side of the field, pass is caught inside the 40 down to the 38 by 38. Clay Johnson, that's a gain of 8. Devin Bowman on the coverage.
I'm shocked that that's the first catch by Clay Johnson, who has become a playground legend in G-Day games in the past. We'll have to keep track of his stats. He may end up being the leading receiver in this game. Brian Schottenheimer mentioned him. There's some guys that they've needed to really step up in these practices just due to the roster numbers. Not something he's used to without these new recruits signing up and on campus yet.
Big collision. Turman gets the handoff. It's popped by Chris Mays, a loss of a yard. Boy, you can hear the pads popping up here.
We've seen Chris Mays a couple of times. That time, just blown assignment. Center left guard, Hunter Long. Probably the most veteran player that they have at the center position. And that time, nobody accounted for big number 93. A tough guy to miss at 315 pounds. In an inside run, you probably want to cover him up a little bit.
Nice little throw and catch will be enough for the first down. That goes to Matt Price, redshirt freshman out of Snellville with a second catch. Gillespie on the coverage, gain of 5.
You see Jacob Park getting the football out this time, being decisive with it. The challenge has come for guys that don't have a ton of playing experience is if their primary receiver, if he doesn't pop, if you don't see him open immediately, is he capable of working his way through the progression and finding the next best option? Right now, he's getting the football out of his hands pretty quickly.
Yeah, Jacob Park is 5 out of 5 for 35 yards. Fatone Bauta, 6 out of 7, 106 yards and 1 pick. Bryce Ramsey, 3 of 7, 90 yards, including a 73-yard touchdown strike to Isaiah McKenzie back in the first quarter.
Ryan Ramsey had probably what should have been a pick. Aaron Davis with a little bit of an underthrow. He's trying to get it to Reggie Davis. The reason I bring it up is it's these quarterbacks between Fatone Bauta and Ramsey have had almost identical statistics in the scrimmages so far.
Yeah, that'll be a sack. Credit that to the red team. Devin Gillespie coming up from a strong safety spot, a loss of 5. You know, there are a lot of people that think this Georgia team, if they can find a suitable, reliable quarterback and certainly make another run at an SEC East crown. You know, I think the East is pretty a wide open race at this point. A lot of people trying to figure out who their quarterbacks are going to be. One team, Tennessee, knows who theirs is going to be.
You know, one team in Florida, they don't even know if they can field an offense. They don't have enough offensive linemen to even have a game. Not enough scholarship guys left for the Gators.
Over the middle and picked off. Back at the 15-yard line. Out to midfield. Jarvis Wilson to the 33. Park was looking for Jackson Harris, but there is Jarvis Wilson, the true freshman early enrollee out of Tupelo, Mississippi, with a 52-yard return.
The ball was just a little bit high. Pressure may have gotten to Jacob Park. Ball sails on him. Jarvis Wilson's able to be the recipient of a pick.
Record in league play, but Tennessee's a team people are talking about. South Carolina's got to figure out who they're going to run the offense. They're a down lineman too. They're playing their spring game today, or had it today, and they only had 6 available offensive linemen. There's Nick Chubb making a reception on first down. Dominic Sanders on the tackle. Well, we were talking about that East, and I mean, it really is up for grabs.
It is, and really, I think you pretty much captured it. As Georgia's going a little bit up-tempo, trying to jump the football. Looks like another procedure penalty. You see that a lot. Guys not playing a lot together, and they're trying to jump the football quickly.
You know, we're talking about quarterback battle here. I think that's pretty much a theme around the conference. You got a couple of guys coming back, and Dak Prescott, Patrick Tolles over at Kentucky.
Just second down.
But across the board, I mean, there are a lot of teams trying to figure out who they're going to have take these snaps.
You really got only 2 known commodities in the East, right? When you come into it, you got Patrick Tolles at Kentucky, and then Matty Mock at Missouri, which, you know, I hesitate to call him a known commodity because it's such an up and down year for him this past season. But when you look at it, there's a lot of question marks at the quarterback position this year. Obviously, you look even in the West, you know, outside of Mississippi State and Auburn, who very quietly might have one of the best quarterback situations in the conference, and Jeremy Johnson taking over for Nick Marshall. But certainly Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. Otherwise, you're looking at a bunch of teams. LSU probably the most prominent among them going, what are we going to do at quarterback?
Right.
You know, we got to figure out, you know, is it an Anthony Jennings? Is it a Brandon Harris? It's not just at the University of Georgia and among others. You know, even Florida, they're wondering is Treon Harris going to be the quarterback of the future in Coach McElwain's offense? Is he a guy that's going to be able to run it?
And is Jacob Coker the answer at Alabama?
Right.
You know, I mean, there's another one.
Lots of question marks, and that's a very important position to have an answer for.
Bauda tries to dump it off and can't do it. It'll be incomplete. Now it'll be 4th down. Sterling Bailey causing some problems, putting the pressure on the quarterback.
Big Brandon Cablano had his hands full with Sterling Bailey that time. And Sterling Bailey's a guy that they're wanting him to step up. They need him to step up big inside. Chris Mays. That time they're running a little bit of a game, a twist between the 2 interior tackles. That's probably something Georgia's going to have to do a lot of. Be very active in their defensive front because they are somewhat undersized at that tackle position.
There's Chubb. Nick Chubb hit at the 25 and dropped there. A gain of 10.
2 catches now for Chubb in this possession, and you can see, you know, they want to get him some work in the passing game. You mentioned earlier today they wanted to get him some work on 3rd downs, but this is an element to the offense that needs to be there, where even if you can threaten downfield at the receiver, even tight end position, can you be accounting for that running back out of the backfield?
Brian Schottenheimer calls a timeout with 4 seconds. Trying to get one last score before the break. And he'll bring in Marshall Morgan to try to attempt the field goal from 42 yards out. From the far hash, Fatone Bauda will hold it. And that one is no good. So the last-ditch effort by the red team to put some points on the board. Doesn't work. So the black team, wearing the white jersey, lead at 14-7. Let's go down to Maria.
Coach, we've seen a lot of Bryce Ramsey and Fatone Bauta. What have you seen from those two quarterbacks in the first half?
Well, obviously made a couple big throws up the boundary. Bryce had the big one to Isaiah for the big play. Obviously, Fatone made a nice back shoulder throw, but we got to protect better, got to run the ball better.
All right, it's your first time calling plays between the hedges with fans surrounding you. How did it feel to get through your first G-Day spring?
Oh, it's awesome. Just love the energy, love the people here. I think we'll play a little bit better in the second half.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Off to the locker room, a 14-7 game. We've had a few fireworks here on the G-Day game. Winners have traditionally gotten the steak, the loser the hot dogs. We'll have a couple more quarters of football to determine who will. And welcome back to Georgia. We're at halftime of the Georgia Spring Game presented by Regions Bank. Vince Dooley always looming large here in Athens, Georgia. Mark Richt has had a great career as the Georgia head coach, but perhaps his most tumultuous offseason in terms of trying to replace his coaching staff. He's had some changes on the offensive side of the ball that include Rob Sale on the offensive line and Thomas Brown coming back to his alma mater. We had a chance to mic up those two individuals. Here's what they had to say during a recent practice.
Who's going to get better today? I want to see these twos playing with some technique, bending their knees and ankles, playing with an attitude. I want to see some of these young cats getting better today, hitting somebody in the freaking mouth.
So plant violent clip with your outside foot, drop your weight behind your pads, head and eyes up, keeping that ball high and tight, burst full speed past that arch. Here we go. Hey, great footwork now.
It's not patty cake. The reason why we do the drill is to work, knock somebody out the 6-inch punch. Strike. Hood, bam. Hood, bam. Hood, bam. Get your head out of there. Strike it.
Okay, shoulders over your toes. I want a single violent cut. Don't roll into it, okay? Cut the defense in half.
Go. Working, working, working. Make him better. Break.
I want you working here. You got me? Look at me. Look at me. Bend here first. Bend. Shake my hips. Here. Flat back, head and eyes up. That's what I want you every time. But lower than that. Here we go. Stop swinging that football.
Bam. How fast can you get out of your stance? Do it again.
Look at me. I want to hear. Force yourself to start off balance. Good. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's how you stick your outside foot in the ground. Top tip. Back tip. Here. Elbow tight. Keep it that same position. Go. Burst out, burst out, burst out.
Thomas Brown working with those running backs. Perhaps they can bring home one more of these with Nick Chubb next season. Time will tell. Georgia Spring Game halftime will continue after this. Hudson Mason, David Andrews at center. Also Todd Gurley. Now Todd Gurley is among the 6 NFL draft prospects featured in ESPN's upcoming docuseries Draft Academy. Here is an excerpt from the show, which premieres April 14th at 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
Drop that head on that ball. Go. There you go. Gurley got the first one to get it. Come on, man. Snag. 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 Oh, you catch the damn ball, Gurley.
Coach Matt, that dude is a trip. He's funny. He always joking on us, man, and laughing.
I played a long time for protecting the quarterback. Played Dorsey, Onios, years as Onios. That's what you call ice. It looks pretty on my finger, though. I know it fits perfect.
He always bragging about himself, but hey, man, if you played 12 years, got a Super Bowl, and you got to be doing something right.
Dang it! Oh, man, I can do it with ease. I played 20 years ago. He dropped the ball, guess what he got? Put the camera on him. No balls allowed to hit the ground out here, remember that.
It's nice to get out on the field, but at the Combine, work in the classroom will be just as important for Todd Gurley. In particular, rapid-fire tests to gauge his football IQ.
Interviews for me is so important because, you know, I'm not able to go out there and do the physical stuff.
Draw him a 4-3 over again like you just did, Gur.
4-3 over, like you said, goes to the tight end.
That's right.
So
how the situation works is this. I pretend like I'm the GM of a team, all the way down from shaking their hand, because you're your own entity now. You got to market yourself the correct way. I put them up on the board and I say, hey, give me a 3-4 defense. And they're on the clock. Bam, start. Stopwatch is on. Gurley, shoot.
All right. I'm gonna start backside first. I'm gonna put you a 5 technique. This is gonna be my end. Shade. I'm gonna give you a 1 backside. Shade. It's gonna be my nose to tackle.
Good job.
Mike, Will, free, strong.
Bam! Good stuff. 28 seconds. Woo-hoo-hoo! Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Girl, step up with his game time. The smartest guy I've worked with is DeMarco Murray. Todd is that same caliber back.
And back
as far as football intelligence.
3.
There you go. You got much better. There you go, man. You got confidence, man. I like it. It's gonna be crucial for you, since you can't work out. You might be up there for 2 hours.
Huh?
You might need an ice pack. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, my knee hurts.
Well, you can follow Todd Gurley along with Jameis Winston, Melvin Gordon, and other draft hopefuls as they pursue their NFL dreams on Draft Academy beginning April 14th at 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. We'll have more from Sanford Stadium, the Georgia Spring Game, after this. From Athens, GA, UGA on hand here between the hedges at Sanford Stadium. One half of football is in the books, and joining us here in the third quarter is the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, Mark Richt. That over there, you might remember him, Matt Stinchcomb, the All-American offensive lineman. Coach, thanks for joining us, and we'll have plenty of time to talk to you a little bit. But just generally, just some thoughts about the first half, what you saw.
Well, a little bit sloppy offensively, a couple offsides, a couple penalties here and there. We throw a pick. There were some good things that happened offensively as well, but overall, I think the defensive side of the ball is playing well. We certainly might have had a sack or two that didn't get called because of how we format the game. But overall, I think it's the guys are playing hard and doing the best they can. But let's see how they finish up.
Well, we'll have our first chance to get a look at Sam Vaughn at quarterback today. We'll hand it off to A.J. Turman. We saw a 73-yard touchdown pass. Isaiah McKenzie looking good, breaking away from some folks, but left with a hamstring. Did you get any kind of update or anything at half on what his situation was?
When you pull a hamstring, you're going to be out for a while. And usually your spring game is your last practice, but we do have 2 more next week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. So it's going to be tough for the rest of those receivers because they're so short as it is just to get through practice right now. But it was a heck of a play, no doubt about that.
Yeah. It'll be on the highlight reels.
No doubt.
Well, here's Vaughn with a handoff to Turman, trying to get to the 30-yard line, gets close. We've seen A.J. Turman a ton. Now, we knew coming in Nick Chubb would see a couple series, some third downs and
right.
whatnot. And how has Nick been in practice for you this year in terms of, being the guy kind of now?
Well, first of all, every day he shows up with a great attitude. He works his tail off. He's going to finish every run. He's going to try to improve in everything that you give him a chance to improve at, which, some of the things we work the hardest with him is the pass protection and route running and all that, and he's gotten better at that. But he just shows up every day ready to work, and, he gets every rep when we do all of our thud work. But when we do our live tackling, it's been mostly third down situations that we've gotten him in the game.
Well, here was Nick Chubb last season putting on quite the show with 1,547 yards rushing. And, as we look at some of these highlights, and you knew Todd Gurley was here, Keith Marshall was coming in. We thought he'd be healthy. It didn't play out that way. I mean, was there even a thought that maybe you might redshirt him last year? Did that even come up to conversation, or was he always going to be in your plans?
Well, after redshirt and no Sean Moreno, I kind of learned my lesson. I'm the guy that redshirted no shot, so I don't know how smart that was. So, even if it's special teams or something, those guys, like even Sony Michel, he was one of our better special team players, prior to him getting injured. So, but we had no idea that Chubb was going to carry the load like he did, but we didn't think at all about redshirting.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Well, you look back, though, I mean, there was some depth at tailback that year.
Oh, there was.
When you're looking, when Noshawn was redshirted, and even the year when he came out, it was due to injury.
Well, our running backs, Coach Thomas Brown, we had Craig Lumpkin, Danny Ware, all played in the NFL. They were all there at the same time ahead of them, so there was a pretty good bunch of backs, no doubt. But I think that we could have found a way to use no shot that year.
You know, I look at 22 right there, Brendan Douglas. He's been a nice little wild card for you the last couple of seasons.
Well, he's a legitimate SEC tailback. He's tough. He gets the hard yards. He pass protects well. He's got good hands. And really this spring, him and A.J. Terman in particular have really carried the load at the tailback position with you know, Keith Marshall and Sony Michel getting banged up.
Well, the other side, of the other aspect anyway of the offense, Coach, we talked about the quarterbacks a little bit, but Malcolm, we've seen Malcolm with a couple of catches now. But the role that he could play with the downfield passing game, that was one of the things that you mentioned earlier in spring that you were looking for out of the quarterback position, was the ability to push the football downfield.
Right.
How good is it? How big is it for him to be healthy coming into this season?
Talk about Malcolm?
Yeah.
Well, it's huge. I mean, Malcolm can run fast, no doubt, and make deep ball catches. Reggie Davis can. Isaiah McKenzie, you saw his speed. We've got some guys that can run. You know, Justin Scott Wesley was a 100-meter champ in the state of Georgia coming out of high school. So we've got guys that can run, and thankfully we got guys with the arm talent to get it to them, and we just got to pick our shots and make plays.
Pass incomplete. That'll bring up 4th down.
Speaking of making plays, excuse me, that was Mauger doing a really good job of breaking up that ball there with Kenny Towns on the other end of that throw.
We'll take one more look at Mauger, who played quite a few snaps for you last year, the junior out of Marietta.
Kell High School doing a really good job for the Dogs, and a great special teamer as well.
Now, how about that? You know, talking to you last year 3 or 4 times, you're doing some of your games, and that secondary was just a mess at times. Players, just the way it shaped up. We'll talk to you more about it after the commercial break, but they ended up playing so well for you. And we'll talk about that and some other issues with Coach Richt as we continue on for the G-Day game. You take a look at our quarterback situation today, the three-headed monster, trying to figure out who's going to be the #1 guy. Their stats today, Ramsey, Bauta, and Park. And the man who will ultimately make that decision with us here in the booth in third quarter, Mark Richt. And your impressions of the quarterbacks here in the first half?
Not bad, not bad. They're making some plays, and there've been a couple that could have been a little bit cleaner. It's a beautiful throw right there, good throw and catch. Jacob Park really pretty accurate throughout the day. Threw that one high ball, and all of a sudden you turn it over, but didn't hurt the team with the missed field goal. But bottom line is, every time we do something like this, it's the greatest experience we could give them, because it's as game-like as you could possibly get, other than they're just not getting hit in the mouth when people get close to them.
You know, from a fan's perspective, and I know you try to eliminate some of that noise as the season, spring and into the fall as you get ready for the season, but obviously this is a really big topic for the Georgia Bulldog fans, and it will be discussed over and over and over again. How do you try to keep those guys from getting caught up in all that and focused on the task at hand?
Well, I hope they don't, number one. I mean, we always tell them to, you know, focus on what's going on in the meetings, focus on what your coaches are telling you, and that's really the only thing that can help you. You know, if you start reading internet stuff or, you know, getting involved in that kind of thing, you're just going to really hurt yourself.
Nice touch.
Christian Payne on the other end of that catch. A little fullback out in the flat, which we've been doing for years and continuing to do now. But I tell you, Christian Payne's had a good fall. I mean, a good spring. He's a very physical blocker, but you got to be able to get out in the flat and make a catch here and there, or run that tough yardage on the goal line and short yardage as a fullback. So really like what he's doing out of Prince Avenue Christian School, where my kids go to school or went to school. Anya is a senior. She's the last of them.
Oh my goodness, you're getting old.
It's amazing. Oh yeah.
The Richt legacy.
Oh yeah.
Going up top.
Is it in play? Oh, give him a chance.
Justin Scott Wesley off his fingertips.
Yeah, not a bad ball. You know, Justin might have ran through that a little bit better, but there's never been a completion of a ball that's overthrown. So we got to keep it in play, give those guys an opportunity to make it.
And this is one of those things you told us yesterday. We're trying to get the ball downfield a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to take shots down the field, and I think it's important to do that. I mean, even though we didn't complete that ball, you know, that DB gets the sensation of getting run by. It changes his mindset a little bit, but you got to make him pay when you got a guy open like that.
Park will hand it off. There's A.J. Terman. He's to the 30, being chased down at the 10. He breaks the tackle. It'll be a touchdown. Georgia 52 yards for Turbin on the ground.
Awesome. Good job by Turbin. He's really worked so hard. And you know, you saw a lot of these runs throughout the day, mostly get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know, 1 or 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden it breaks open, and you're able to take it to the house, break that last tackle. So proud of his effort right there, and good blocking up front.
That's twice now we've seen him show pretty good vision with some backside holes where he's pressing at play side, even on that fourth down play earlier.
That's right. He's getting better and better at that, and you know, he's coming off of an injury from last season too, and you know, in the off-season running and all that, you could see him coming back, but being a little rusty when spring began, but he's getting much more comfortable as we go.
Hey, 82 yards today on 16 carries for A.J. Turbin.
Yeah, it helps get that big one there.
That's
52,
right.
Rack up the stats. But that's how football is, you know. You pound and you pound, and sometimes it doesn't look pretty, and the fans are wondering why you keep hammering it in there, and then all of a sudden you break one big, and things start to change.
Back to your quarterbacks for a second. Kind of give me just a thumbnail sketch on each guy, the big three, if you will, and what they bring, their positive attributes.
Right. Well, I'd say all three of them do have the arm talent to get the job done. You know, Bryce is got good height. He's a good athlete. He's not a guy you put a lot of QB running for, but he could get himself out of trouble. And then Fatone, you know, he's a guy that I think if he broke out in the open, he'd be more apt to try to run a linebacker over. He's kind of got that fiery mentality. And then, you know, Jacob's a guy. Here's a ball on target.
Ramsey down the near sideline, caught by Reggie Davis for 60 yards.
Big play, and that's the whole thing. You take enough shots, all of a sudden you hit one, it changes the complexion of the game. But and then getting back to Jacob Park, outstanding arm talent, very good athlete, still learning how to play quarterback at the college level. But I'd say, you know, for him, this summer is so crucial for him to really get a total comfort level with what we're doing, so he can come back in the fall and really be a legitimate contender.
Nice ball there from Bryce. Harkening back to the first quarter, though, and I want to say it was probably the second possession where he tried to force one downfield, underthrew it a little bit.
Right.
How much reining in do you have to do for him? Does he know that he has an arm that can make throws that maybe he probably shouldn't attempt?
Yeah, I think they all do that at times. For whatever reason, well, there's a couple things. A lot of times your first progression is the progression farthest down the field. So if you're not willing to go to your second and third receiver, and you're only comfortable knowing who your primary guy is, sometimes you just try to jam it in there because you know you got that strong of an arm. But the reality is you got to learn to take that intermediate to the check down to really become a good decision maker and become a guy who's going to hit a high percent of his passes. And Coach Schottenheimer's got a term saying a shot called doesn't mean you have to take it. In other words, if we call a go route or a takeoff route, it doesn't mean you have to throw it. It just means if we got the right situation, take it. If not, dump it off to your back and let's go play another down. All right, third down, about 3. Let's go see what's going to happen there.
Here comes 2-7 onto the field. Nick Chubb will check in.
Yeah,
always nice to throw him onto the field, huh?
Oh, it is. He's usually when the play calls for him to get it, something good's going to happen. So my guess is he'll touch it here.
We'll see what this play call is on 3rd down and 3 inside the 10-yard line. Ramsey at quarterback.
All right.
Cleavon Hicks also in the game.
Yep. Great protection. Great protection. And you know what? Guy's not open. We're trying to throw it to a spot where we can get it or nobody gets it. You know, it's a good play in that we're still in position to kick the ball and get 3 points on the board.
And Ramsey will come off. Fatone Bauta will check in, as will Marshall Morgan. What a luxury it is to have Marshall Morgan back again.
Yeah, Marshall has been outstanding for his entire career. Great extra point field goal guy. Going to continue to work on his distance on the kickoffs, but absolutely a guy that you'd love to have coming back for him.
Career 46 of 58 for one Marshall Morgan.
25-yard field goal. Nice job.
A.J. Turbin with a long run. Back in a moment. Take a look at the Georgia Spring Awards that were announced, I guess, yesterday. And, Coach, these guys seem to have captured the attention of the coaches and fellow teammates.
Right, the Hustle Award, guys just giving it all they got the whole time through. And Colton being the MVP, a guy that is a 6-year guy for us, been a great leader for us and had a great spring. And then the most improved players, Reggie Davis, Jay Rome on offense, Tim Kimbrough, just showing people that he belongs as well.
Loose football. Turman puts it on the ground, and I think the Red has it. And it looks like they will. Hubert Owens gives the right-hand signal that says the Red will have another chance.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see that again, if possible. Sometimes that back tries to snatch the ball out of the hand of the QB, and sometimes the QB's got to stick it on him. Yeah, it looked like A.J. tried to snatch it from him, and he's got to let that thing come flush to his belly and take it from there. So
looked a little wide too, didn't he, Coach?
Yeah,
on his
there
course?
may have been. And sometimes that's a QB taking a poor angle too. So until we get that coach's copy, we'll figure out what happened and get that cleaned up.
Nowhere to hide.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah,
right
sure.
now.
Yeah.
But,
There'll be plenty of time for that.
Could have been either one, but we don't like them snatching the ball out of the hand. I know that.
Bryce Ramsey will hand it off to Douglas over the left side. He'll cut it back, and Lorenzo Carter made a few plays for you. Number 7 in white, the guy that really came onto the scene last year and garnered quite a bit of attention.
No doubt. And we was talking about him earlier that, looking for him to really play the run much better. We know he can rush the passer. Part of the things we've been trying to get him to get better at is using his hands, being more firm and stout against the run, setting that edge on the power plays and things of that nature. And he's getting much better as we go.
On the inside, we've seen Chris Mays make a couple of plays in the backfield. James DeLoach seems to have had a pretty good spring again, reminiscent of last year at his defensive tackle spot. That's kind of an area of concern as well.
It is. We've got to get stronger up front on both sides of the ball. We're probably on the lighter side of the league when it comes to how much our guys weigh and all. And we want them to be in shape. We want them to get lean, but we also want to make sure we got enough strength and power to hold up. So it's going to be a huge offseason for that.
As we look at Isaiah Wynn, a guard that you kind of shifted into that center spot, looking for somebody to fill the hole, the big shoes of David Andrews.
No doubt. He does a great job as a center. He's still learning to make some of the mic declarations. Oh, good to check. Now, isn't that fitting? When he gets the ball, it opens up like the Red Sea. You know what I mean?
Right behind Isaiah Wynn, no less.
Perfect. But Isaiah has struggled with the snaps a little bit in the shotgun and a little bit of the identification of who the Mike linebacker is from time to time. But he's getting better as he goes, and we get those snaps squared away. I think he's going to be a good one. But we are going to continue to work Cablano as a center as well. We want to see what he can do. Hunter Long has actually had a nice spring for us as well. So we got to have a minimum of 3 centers going into the season, just as you do at the quarterback position.
That was last season was a luxury you all haven't had in a long time, about 13 years, where you've had an offensive line unit go wire to wire, start to finish. You got 4 of those guys back. Obviously, that's a key component at center.
Huge. But like you say, nobody got injured. I think in 2002 we had the same situation where we had the same group go, although we did rotate tackles a little bit, a 3-man tackle rotation. But you stay healthy, you have great success. 2002 is an example. Last year I think we broke about every offensive scoring record that we had at this university, and it all starts, as you know, up front with that line.
Well, the white team seen their lead dwindle down to 4. They'll hand it off to Turman. Coach, before we get out of here, you do have, and once again brought in a highly ranked class, and some of the names that certainly jump out at you based on some of the ESPN numbers the guys put together. We're seeing, a guy like Jonathan Ledbetter right now participate, but some of these guys you anticipate could come in here and make a difference early, don't you think?
Freshmen are so much different than they used to be. Bigger, stronger, faster. A lot of them play only one sport. A lot of them all off-season are working out and getting prepared. So it's just not that shocking to see young guys make plays for you as freshmen. Jordan's having a big day.
Yeah,
huh?
Jordan's had 4 or 5 catches today. Another one of those tight end spots. That's a position, obviously, that you've got a ton of talent in.
Well, we are talented. We have some depth right now, and they're healthy right now. So they're one position group that has really gone through the spring to this point, not having anybody pull a hammy or not have somebody getting hurt, because we had about the same number of tailbacks, and within the first couple practices, here we are running a little bit short. In the wide receiver position, we were short from the get-go. But, yeah, the tight end position has held up pretty good this spring.
Tell you what, the Patrick kid has had a pretty good game so far.
Natrez.
He's shown up a couple of different times.
Really
I know
has.
Coach Pruitt's pretty high on him.
He's made a little bit of a name for himself this spring. I think he's shown that he'll play hard, he'll play physical. He's not intimidated by the whole situation. Coming in mid-year, like you say, could have been in high school right now, but here he is playing in the spring game for Georgia and doing a nice job.
You can see, he made a reference to Dante Hightower. We see him lining up as an inside linebacker covering a tight end downfield. We've seen him come off the edge.
Right.
Certainly a versatile athlete.
Well, we started him out at outside linebacker this spring, and Chooks Amici started him inside, and then we flipped him by design after a few practices. And I think Chooks is better on the edge, and I do think Natrez is probably a more natural middle linebacker. So I think those are going to fit for both of those guys.
Well, 3rd down and roughly 10 yards. Jacob Park out of that shotgun formation.
Oh, a chip block.
Coming near side.
Make a play.
And intended for
Justin Bowman.
Justin Scott Wesley can't make the reception. Now it's 4th down.
Time to punt, huh? Yeah, good job. We were kind of oohing and on about that chip block. I'm not sure who got it off the edge, but a chip block is when a defensive end or an outside rusher is trying to get around the edge on a tackle, and the back, as he's releasing, gets a little piece of him, a little chip on him, and allows that pass to be thrown.
It's a thing of beauty. Maybe the most important thing a running back could ever do.
I know. You beautiful tackles love that. And believe me, we're excited about those kind of blocks.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you spending some time with us. Always great seeing you. Have a great summer, and good luck. Obviously,
thanks, Mr. Stinchcomb. Thank you.
Some decisions coming up, including who's going to run the show under center.
Yes, sir.
3rd quarter in the books. We'll come back to Athens between the hedges after this.
You are watching the SEC Network. Due to time constraints, we move ahead in our coverage after these.
Well, Fatone Bauta has had a nice afternoon here in the G-Day game. He is on the day. Bauta is 11 of 15, 142 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and you can see what he brings to that quarterback spot, some athleticism. The fact that he even got that ball off to Jordan Davis for a touchdown. He's a guy that's not going to wow you with his downfield throws, but Coach Rick mentioned he thinks all of these quarterbacks, and it's likely Bryce Ramsey and Fatone Bauta are going to be battling it out for that starter position. They can make the throws just like that. Ones that accuracy and decision-making are going to trump that arm strength. Arm strength is a luxury, not always a necessity. As long as he's making good decisions, knowing what the weapons are in the run game. You saw a season ago where a quarterback can be a good decision maker and pick his spots and be able to operate this offense effectively.
Georgia offense 1st in the league, 41 points a game. They were 1st in rushing, 9th in passing, 4th in total offense under Mike Bobo, who's now running the show at Colorado State.
That time Reggie Wilkerson, he got burned a little bit on Isaiah McKenzie's big touchdown run, or touchdown catch rather. That time blitzing from a slot position. He's a guy that will be their money player, their star position at times, at least for now. And he wasn't accounted for in the blocking scheme. Certainly wasn't picked up, rather. The ball whistled dead.
Oh, big collision on the outside. That hit came from Malcolm Parrish. He hit Malcolm Mitchell. Gain of 6.
We've seen Parrish. He's been marking Mitchell on a couple of occasions today. Big shot. And you know what? For guys that are coming back from injury, sometimes that's a great thing to be able to have. Let him take a couple of big hits just to know that you can trust whatever it is that you've rehabbed. Although I tell you what, the way he's holding his shoulder after that shot, not ideal.
That ball's almost picked off by Parrish.
Malcolm Mitchell still holding that shoulder, and you wonder, when he went down, did he separate that left shoulder a little bit? It feels almost like you've got something, like your pads have folded underneath it when that happens. You see him there. Here I am lauding the chance to get a good shot on guys that are coming back from injury. And Malcolm Mitchell, as talented as he's been, he has been plagued with injuries. He worked his way to the sideline.
So the black team, which is actually wearing the white jerseys, will have the football. They're up by 4. There's Malcolm Mitchell. Hope he's all right. Bryce Ramsey coming back out for another chance here, the sophomore.
I'll tell you, Dave, if he is banged up, you're talking about your top 2 known playmakers coming into this game outside, Isaiah McKenzie and Malcolm Mitchell. Those are 2 guys that they're counting on to be explosive playmakers in the passing game. It doesn't look like it's too serious, but he's holding that left shoulder, holding that collar of his jersey for a reason. You see him reaching underneath there.
He's walking over to Ron Corson right now, the trainer. Got my eye on him as gain of about 8 on the carry by A.J. Turman. And there is Ron Corson. Malcolm said, enough of this. I'm not going to be foolish. Let's go have somebody.
You don't need to self-diagnose, man. You don't need WebMD. Go over there to the trainer and get him to figure it out.
And Ron Corson, one of the best in the business, the real leader in his field of athletic training. Out over the 40-yard line, a gain of 4 for Turman. Trammell Terry steps up, makes the tackle. So McKenzie's out with a hamstring. That was back in the first quarter, and now Malcolm Mitchell talking about his shoulder.
We saw Reggie Davis, wide receiver, guy that won one of the spring awards. One of the question marks for him was, would he push through, because these receivers have been taking a ton of reps, no rest, running downfield, coming back, taking more. And it looks like that receiver spot's going to get even more of a burden in that passing game, with 2 guys looking like they're probably going to be out of commission for the balance of spring.
Offense, number 74, 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
So Hubert got his microphone fixed. It's been bouncing in and out. Boy, the volume's certainly up.
And you know that Thomas Swilly, who was just whistled for the false start, he's like, perfect. Your mic works when I.
That's right, all of a sudden. Everybody could know. Timing is everything, Dave.
Quick hitter across the middle as the red team brought some pressure. That pass was caught by Matt Price. Gain of 13. Jonathan Abram, who has had 5 tackles today.
Not a lot of exotic looks, but we've seen some edge pressure coming from the slot. Not something you always see in these spring games. Still relatively vanilla. Of course, we know that there's a lot more that this defense can do, especially when they get talents like Leonard Floyd back in the lineup, a guy who probably could line up an inside linebacker, outside linebacker, even the star position.
Underneath to Clay Johnson. He's got some running room to the 30-yard line, and he is walloped out of bounds after a 22-yard pickup.
It was just a matter of time before Big Clay starts racking up the stats. That time, nice throw and catch. Was able to get all the way across the field and pick up some big yardage. At this point, it really is kind of hard to gauge. You come into it, you say you want to play cleanly, you want to get out healthy. You're banged up at receiver right now. It looks like the 2 key positions. Seen some procedure penalties. Looks like another one here. And this is with your 1 unit out there, and Bryce Ramsey.
All start offense, 35, 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
It's A.J. Turman.
It looks like you're two front, rather, but these are the types of plays, as you take a look at Coach Richt, he's standing right behind that offensive huddle. Those are the things that are obvious. Those get addressed right after the G-Day game is over. You want to make sure that procedurally you're clean. Hasn't always been the case.
Turman inside the 30, driving to the 27-yard line. He'll pick up about 4 on that carry. Turman closing in on 100 yards.
He's had some nice runs.
He's at 99 yards.
Yeah, the one that ripped off the big chunk yardage play. But he's had some tough runs too, you know, move the pile type runs. I think it's pretty obvious who the top line contenders are as far as getting carries. And AJ taking advantage of some of this action. Guy that's been plagued by injury as well.
Christian Payne gets the carry.
Those big fullbacks, guys like that, every once in a while you want to throw them a bone. And Christian Payne had a nice catch earlier. Big-bodied guy. Let him get a piece of the action in the passing game.
Well, these Bulldogs, and you look forward to the 2015 season for their first 5 games right here between the hedges, which will certainly be a big bonus for whoever gets to run the offense. But that lone road game out of the gates is at Vanderbilt. You were there, I guess, a couple of weeks ago for their spring football game, and they're trying to figure out who their quarterback's going to be. But you start with Louisiana Monroe, South Carolina here. You get Southern in this building, and I think a game a lot of people are anxious to see. Alabama back on the schedule.
It's been a long time. I don't know if this Georgia fan base is that anxious. The last time Alabama was here, 2008 season, #1 ranking. Last time I think black jerseys were worn by the Bulldogs, and it was not a pretty picture. And you better believe that it's not just Jake Gaines. There's a lot of other guys in this program that they'll be reminded of what happened long before they were ever a part of the program. Last time Alabama came to town, but that might be, those are tough back-to-back games. Alabama at home and then on the road versus Tennessee, a much improved Tennessee squad. Maybe one of the few known commodities in that East Division as far as the quarterback position with Joshua Dobbs. They finished the season very strong. Georgia narrowly beating the Vols a season ago at home. But the part that's interesting to me in this schedule, last year, there's a bye weekend there, but Georgia had 2 road games versus Missouri and Arkansas. Those are 2 of the longest trips in the conference before they played Florida. This year, they'll have a trip to Tennessee, but then they get Missouri back at home. And I think you take a team that has got some new faces, certainly at that junction of the season last year, it comes in handy to not be away from home 3 weeks in a row. That Florida game down in Jacksonville, neutral site, you're still getting on a plane. It's not the same as playing at home, regardless of what color jersey you wear.
And I know it's a long way away, and there's a full schedule to go, but you know there's a lot of folks wearing the red and white jerseys that want another chance at Georgia Tech after what happened here last year. One of the most amazing games of the college football season. I mean, it was a wild ride, but a disappointing day for the Bulldogs. And Paul Johnson's going to have another great team down at Georgia Tech down on the flats. So it's not an easy ride, but I certainly, as we talked about earlier, this is a Georgia Tech, a Georgia team that certainly has some aspirations for winning an SEC East and getting back to the SEC championship game. And I know they were disappointed they didn't get there last year, knowing that they beat Missouri so badly and the Tigers played for it.
Yeah, you know, you look at Missouri, every member of the Georgia fan base is saying surely Texas A&M or Arkansas can take care of the business of Missouri and getting them into the SEC championship game. That wasn't the case. The Tigers found ways to win. But the way that season ended, some of that was vindicated, I think, with that big bowl victory, but rivalry games tend to linger, and especially the way that game went down versus Georgia Tech. Don't sleep on Georgia Southern. You know, they won that Sun Belt Conference. They run a similar offense head coach Willie Fritz did a great job in year one. Georgia Southern would have been in a bowl game if they weren't making that transition to the FBS level. That's not just a warm-up act prior to playing Georgia Tech at the back end of the schedule.
Jay Rome making a catch there. We're running out of time, 48 seconds to go in this G-Day game. Give me your takeaways from today. Obviously some storylines we talked about, quarterback position, but overall, what are some of the things you're going to leave the ballpark with?
Well, you know, I think that the center position is one that's certainly still in flux. You know, we saw some nice things. I think Isaiah Wynn with the bad snap, but that wasn't the defining moment, I think, of his performance today. I saw a couple of nice blocks there. You know, the offensive front had some difficulty, and I think a lot of offensive fronts will in pass protection, facing some of the edge rushers that Georgia's defense possesses. Speaking of edge rushers, there's a guy that can get to the edge and rush the football pretty well, and Nick Chubb offensively. But, you know, from a quarterback position, you look at Bryce Ramsey, the forced football downfield, trying to get it to Reggie Davis, the whole shot called versus is not necessarily a shot taken mentality. I think he certainly had a little bit of a departure there. Wants that ball back. Fatone Bauta, I thought, has acquitted himself really well, surprisingly so, despite the fact that we knew it was probably a two-horse race. I thought he's looked pretty sharp in this game.
And Bauta looks like that might have been deflected right into the hands of Douglas. And I think the red team will take their final time out of the game as Brian Schottenheimer using that timeout. And certainly he, this has been a very vanilla day, and we talked to Brian yesterday at length about his offense, and will it be much different from what we saw with Mike Bobo calling the plays? And he says it'll be similar, but you will notice some differences, and I'm just anxious to see what those will be.
I am too. You know, when we asked the coaches yesterday, so how will that be manifested, this distinction? And, you know, they're relatively vague. Part of that's a function of assimilating his verbiage, you know, his wording, his nomenclature, what he does offensively with what Georgia previously did. And, of course, it's not just a new offensive coordinator and Coach Schottenheimer. You've got a new offensive line coach in Rob Sale. You've got Thomas Brown, a former running back, now coaching running backs. And then the former running back coach and Brian McClendon transitioning to wide receivers. So there's been a little bit of shuffling, to say the least. Certainly more turbulence on the offensive side of the ball from a coaching staff standpoint than at any other time in Coach Rick's long tenure at Georgia.
That was batted in the air with 28 seconds. And now it's fourth down.
You know, Sterling Bailey, you know, one of those guys that's looking to be an answer in the defensive front that, as we mentioned, is going to be a focal point for improvement on this Georgia roster. But I think there's no question, you know, the work to be done on the offensive side of the ball, you know, some of it is going to be a systemic type of adjustments, you know, how they call plays, some of the concepts. Coach Rick has been really pleased with what Coach Schottenheimer has brought here. And yet you can tell that there's a lot of work being done both ways.
Well, the tradition has been winners with the steaks, losers with the hot dogs. Did you have that? Was that ever?
Yeah, I can't remember. You know, I like them both so much. That, even if I lost, I wasn't that disappointed, man. I'll take the hot dog. Depends on how many of them there are.
Douglas makes the catch. Only a yard.
You know, the biggest thing coming out of this spring, and Coach Rick's been very pleased with quarterbacks and the work that they've put in, you know, the progress that they've made. I think they're going to learn a good bit about what portions of the offense need to kind of meld into what they were doing previously, and what portions they can kind of change and shift to as far as what Coach Schottenheimer wants to do. But it really has to have been difficult, knowing that you've got a moving part at quarterback, knowing that you've got a receiver position that is largely inexperienced and in flux. And I think it'll be through summer camp before that offensive identity is fully realized as far as what it'll look like when you actually start keeping score when it counts.
Well, this G-Day game is in the books, and the black team will win it 24-17 A good look at all three of the quarterbacks, Fatone Bauta, Bryce Ramsey, and Jacob Park. But Lorenzo Carter also shined today for the Dogs. He's alongside Maria Taylor.
The first thing he said after I said you got the win, he said we had to. So what was the defense's focus to prove here today at G-Day?
Oh, yeah, defensively, we want to be dominant all the time. And we came out here, did a pretty good job playing physical. Coach Pruitt, he should be pretty proud.
You had 2.5 tackles for loss. What have you learned throughout your first spring here at Georgia?
It's just physicalness. Really, football is a mental game. You got to be mentally strong and physically strong. And just, I built strength over the spring.
Well, congratulations on the win. Enjoy your steak. I think they're going to be eating beans and weenies today. Congrats.
Well, we will see a lot of number 7 in the fall, as well as 2-7, Nick Chubb. Well, the Georgia Bulldogs will try to figure out who their quarterback will be as their season is just around the corner. It was a good day here in Athens. Gorgeous afternoon for the G-Day game. Our final score, the Black wins at 24-17. So long from Athens.